Yo, what it do, St. Louis? Hey, guess what? It is 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, so y'all know what time it is.
No
It's
time.
time for the St. Louis Hustle podcast with yours truly, Cortez Hustle, and my girl, Michelle. Hey, and we got a wonder-filled show for you today. Some of you guys have been wondering where the money resides. Well, we got a
Oh
special
yeah.
guest today, and we're going to show y'all exactly where the money resides. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get this party started. Let's do it.
Growing up in St. Louis has never been easy, and most say if you want to succeed here, that you must leave and put down roots somewhere else because of the strong crabs in a barrel mentality here.
I don't know if I'm just an optimistic person, but to see people like Chuck Berry and Nelly make it in the music industry, or the Roberts brothers and Dave Stewart in business, or William Lacey Clay Jr. in politics, can we blame the city, or is it that people just aren't hungry enough?
We're talking to all of the movers and shakers in this town, from entertainers to politicians, social activists and organizers, and of course, entrepreneurs.
Is there a curse on this city that holds people back? Is there an unseen hand that decides who makes it and who doesn't? You're about to find out.
Welcome to St. Louis Hustle.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the St. Louis Hustle podcast this morning. I'm your host, Cortez Hustle. That's my lovely co-host, Michelle. Hey. And we are coming to you live and direct from the Monetize My Life Academy studios here in St. Louis, Missouri, the premier digital marketing mastermind for the entrepreneur. If you are trying to get your business online, you're trying to build an attractive, profitable, powerful personal brand, then the mastermind is the place for you. Plan starting at just $10 a month, all the way up to $27 a month through the end of February. So get in where you fit in, people, and let us help you take your brand to the next level. Do me a favor, go ahead and comment in the chat where you're from. Drop the name of your business and or your brand if you like a free business shout out. And we want to hook you up today because, as I always say, if you ain't shouting you out, I don't know who the heck is. So, Chalet, how was your weekend, sis?
Man, this the face for the weekend. I should be an emoji. This could be an emoji face. Hello. You know what? So I got some news. I got two pieces of news for y'all. First piece of news is, against my will, somebody chose to make me a grandmother. They're choosing to make me a grandmother.
Is it grandmother or is it glam mother?
I
Or is
really
it, have you
prefer.
decided on any of that stuff yet?
I don't know. I gotta have something creative. Nana. I'm thinking about Nana Shell. I don't know. The tutu. I don't know. Something cute that a kid can say. It just. I ain't happy about it. No. Let me not say that. I am interestingly involved in my feelings regarding the matter. Ha!
There you
There
go.
it
I
is.
love it. I
There
love
it is. There it is. COVID numbers really quickly. Missouri, we're at 504,000. So we began to slow with the rise. Illinois is at 1.15 mil. But again, slow. They've been slow with the numbers, because last week they were 1.11. So this is not bad. It's not bad at all. Also, really quick, I wanted to start giving some numbers about the vaccine doses that we're administering. So as we administer more vaccines, hopefully the numbers for COVID will go down. Missouri is at 693,400. And Illinois, they busting 2 million doses. Where they getting all these doses from?
Listen, I thought there was a shortage in the amount of
Thank you.
though I don't know. Well, we are talking Illinois. Chicago is in Illinois.
Yeah.
Maybe some of them gangsters out there said, "Listen, man, I don't care what y'all doing with them vaccines elsewhere. We need them here in Chicago."
I don't know. I think they over there putting apple cider vinegar in the thing, because black people think apple cider vinegar cure anything. I think they over there dosing. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So that's what I got for you. I think we going to the A word of the day?
No, let's go ahead and bring on our special guest.
Yes.
For her, and then we'll bring you out with the A word of the day, because I know you are excited about this particular guest.
I am. I know her.
Planet. When we get a chance to talk about money, I'm excited. So
I knew you would be. I knew you would be. But I know her. You ever see somebody they famous, be like, oh, I know them. I know
There you go.
All right, so we are so happy to introduce to some and present to others. This young lady she a beast. She is in the financial world. She spent over 20 or nearly 20 years in the financial world. Her background is in educational health, and now she is here to bring lots of information to the people about where the money resides on both sides. So you're going to get a lot of everything today. So please welcome to the St. Louis Hustle podcast show, Miss Nicole Tyler of PHP Agency. Welcome, Nicole.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Wonderful. I'm so excited. Nicole and I go back a little bit, and she's just a wonderful person, period. Before you add all the accolades, she's just a wonderful human being. But when you add in the accolades, she just supersized. She just grew. She just
and that's my kind of person. The person who is amazing as a person first, and then they go and accomplish some amazing things. Those are the types of people. Because you got some jerks who've done some amazing things too, and it doesn't always work well for everybody else. But it's always good to be able to recognize amazing people who've also done amazing things, and also put themselves on the line to help other people do amazing things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're gonna jump into your interview. I'm gonna just hit everybody up real quick. Excuse me, with the A word of the day. The word of the day. Frog in my throat. That's part of the word, but that ain't the word. Okay, so the A word of the day is silence is golden, right? Sometimes people, we just talk way too much, and silence is golden from a standpoint of, I'm gonna take it here when we pray and we ask God for things, or we pray and we talk to God, or maybe we're in a season of our life where things are just real still. Nothing new is happening, nothing bad is happening necessarily, but just you're kind of feel stuck and mundane. I just want to remind the people, the good people of St. Louis, that even when things are still in your life or quiet in your life, it doesn't mean God's not working. Just because there is no movement, there's not a lot of bang happening, it doesn't mean God has been restricted. I think in those moments where God is being silent, you should be silent too. Close your mouth. You can't hear from God if you're yapping. Lord, where you at? I can't hear you. Lord, why? Lord, when is going to happen? Lord, you can't hear from God if you steady talking. Okay. So just remember, be encouraged in the silence. Be encouraged when you're out there about living your St. Louis, living your best life in St. Louis. The silence is golden. So learn to appreciate it. Learn to get used to it in some fact. So when God is speaking, you can truly hear him. So that's that A word of the day.
Amen.
In other words, get your tail somewhere and sit down. Shut up. Be quiet. Be still and know that I am God.
Okay, come on, preacher. Come on.
Give it
to the people this morning.
Yes, he's coming in a Hyundai. Yes, he is. Yes, Suzuki. Yes, God. Yes, you better come on. Woo, all right. We're going to start having church moments in a moment. All right. Led by the good deacon, the good pastor deacon, evangelist, bishop. All righty. So we're just going to jump right in. We have I know that you have a whole host of things to share, Nicole. Your background, and I didn't mention this, some of the things that you've done overseas. You recently had an overseas trip where you engaged with the people in one of the communities in Jamaica, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that trip?
Absolutely. So in 2019 and also in 2020, my university went to Negril, Jamaica to do some public service there. So we got an opportunity to connect with the locals. We worked at an elementary or a primary school there on the island. We got an opportunity to get in the space and meet people where they were. The way that we connected, the way that we were able to pour love, we brought books, we brought donations, like our university showed a tremendous amount of support for that community. And since we've established relationships that are unbreakable, you would think that some of these folks that we came across were family. You would think that we had known each other for years, but the group of ladies from my university, Walden University, hashtag, we to this day have a sisterhood. We to this day have all been committed to being the best version of ourselves and allowing God to use us, not only in our local communities, but around the world. And so from the 2019 trip, there was a nonprofit organization that was birthed by one of my cohorts and fellow Walden University students. And the nonprofit is Myers Gardier International Foundation. And so to this day, here in 2020, we still send love offerings back to the island, because the difference is in the US, we have this organized system. We have the unemployment and Social Security. We have now this stimulus, period that we're looking at. But what about those communities that don't have those things? They don't have anything to fall back on. How do those families continue to maintain? You have children, you have a husband and a wife. If someone loses their job, what is in place for them to still be able to maintain? And so somebody's got to be thinking about those groups, whether you are right there with them, whether you live next door to them, or if you are thousands of miles away, it all matters. And so all of us, my goal is to be able to walk by example, get people to join me and in thinking outside of ourselves and thinking more about how we can serve others in our communities and even outside of them.
Love it.
Man,
love it. Love it.
that's
Really quickly, before we move on, I got to give you guys the question of the day. You guys know that if you answer the question of the day, you get entered into a drawing to win a free vacation. And we do the drawings every Wednesday at noon Central Time. But in order for us to know that you're answering or responding to the question of the day, you must put QOTD and then give your answer. Today's question of the day, since we're talking about where the money resides, is what is your biggest financial challenge, right? What is your biggest financial challenge? Is it budgeting? Is it saving? Is it credit? Is it debt? Is it
all of the above?
Not enough income, no investments? What is your biggest financial challenge? Because we got somebody here that could help you with that challenge if you are bold enough to say, hey, here's where I'm struggling at a little bit. And also make sure you leave your questions for the lovely Nicole as well. So Nicole, real quick, your background, why finance? What got you down that road and all of that kind of stuff and led you to university and what you're doing now?
Okay. So what's really interesting, and this might encourage somebody, honestly, when I was in school, middle school, high school, numbers was never my thing. I hated math. And so what's funny, I was one of the first people within my family that actually ended up landing a job in finance, accounts receivable. So, 16, 17 years old, I started working, in little small corporate settings, doing cash applications, so on and so forth. But later on down the road into my young adulthood, I started working in corporate finance, and I watched the company that was 30,000 plus strong go through a downsizing. So in a matter of 18 months, it went from 30,000 employees down to about 1,300. And I said to myself, okay, what happens if they close their doors tomorrow? I didn't have, an education to fall back on. I had a skill set and I felt pretty confident in it, but I said, I have to level this thing up. I have to do more. So I decided to go back to school. So I began pursuing my bachelor's degree in healthcare administration with a minor emphasis in finance. And so I said, well, since I'm working with numbers now, I think it would be good to, healthcare is my passion. That's where a lot of my family is. We have nurses and, folks that have been in the field for some time. But since I've actually been working in finance, that's where the bulk of my experience is. Let me add that on to, my concentration at a university. And so I continued on, completed the bachelor's, completed the master's, and I started to realize that the things that I was doing every day for my 9 to 5, wait a minute, some of these concepts can be applied in my personal life. If I can manage multi-million-dollar accounts for this corporate entity that I'm working for, why can't I treat my life, my finances, my household in the same way? Because really, there's no difference between the two. We spend more time on our jobs than we do at home with our families in most cases.
Yeah.
So why not glean? Why not leverage everything that you are learning in your 9 to 5? Romans 8:28 says it best. All things work together
Say that.
for the good of them that love the Lord and to them that are called according to his purpose.
Come
so if
on.
you believe that all things work together, there's never a happenstance. There's never a coincidence. You are right where you are supposed to be. Gain something from it, maximize the opportunity. And so that's my story. That's how it all started in finance for me.
Love it. So not even a numbers person. I think people discount the wonder that we are in how we were created, right? That thing called evolution is a real thing, man. And this is why you got to be careful about letting people speak into your life. Because somebody could have told you as a child, girl, you can't do math, then you better go and get in some other field. You don't need to be in this financial world, girl, because you don't even like math. Right? Good that didn't happen to you, right? I tell people all the time. I had a guy who coached my sons in football, and he cussed a lot. As a Christian man, everybody's looking at me like, Cortez, how could you as a Christian man allow your son to be around a guy who cusses so much? I said, because I know the difference between a cuss word and a curse word.
Woo! Come on.
Okay.
That's why. Because a cuss word don't mean nothing to me and my son. But you are cursing your kid when he misses the ball and say, man, you stupid. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
I'm going to get off that box this morning.
Man,
Go ahead, Michelle.
I didn't know. I didn't know. See what you done broke. You done came on the show and broke the phone. I'm here to tell you, that one over there, where he at? He didn't start, when he gets started preaching, I'm like, oh, let him use you. Man, there's so much to unpack with what you just said. Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm telling you the truth. I can't, that's going to be another show. We have to go back there, the difference between cussing and cursing.
Cortez, I took notes on that one. I did. I really did. That was good.
Bishop, pastor, deacon is in the house. Man, I tell you, I'm going to go to work and just cuss everybody else. Technically, you just told me they're wrong. A good cussing for everybody. It don't mean nothing. It don't mean nothing. Watch who didn't watch the show. So no, Nicole, Lord help you, Jesus. Okay, so Nicole, your background also as doing finance and health education. Also, your background as far as your spiritual foundation, evangelism, you're a Christian evangelist, and I have to specify Christian because some folk be out there on some other. So, but a Christian evangelist, how is it that you are able to you use that as your foundation and tie everything together and put that nice little red bow, red for the blood, hey, for the blood. How do you put that bow up? Hey,
do it for the blood, Shell.
I ain't gonna do it. Oh, I am gonna do it. Do it for the blood. I am gonna do it. Hey, sorry. We back.
That's okay. That's okay. But to answer your question, it's 2 words: fellowship, and for me, fishing.
Come on.
So let's unpack that a little bit. So please. We have like right now in this space, we're fellowshipping. Yes. Everywhere that we go, fellowship is not just confined to a church. Yes. But when you have the opportunity to connect in a space with like-minded individuals, you all have a single goal in mind to achieve. You can leverage each other's strengths. You can grow with each other. You can learn from each other. You develop some things that you did not even know existed within yourself. And so I think when you talk about the church and how do you pull things out of that, it really just starts by you being unapologetically you. and being intentional about the connections that you make with those that you come in contact with. So now let's talk about fishing.
Fishing.
So I'm sure you all have heard I think it's a Chinese proverb that says, if you give a man a fish, he's fed for the day.
Come
But if
on.
you teach a man to fish, he's
Yes.
fed for life.
There
So
you
my goal is to become a great fisherman. And
Mhm.
everywhere that I go, the things that I have the opportunity to learn in the States, outside of the States, wherever I am, that I have the opportunity to take that knowledge and transfer it to somebody else, to
There
give
you
them the skills and to help develop them in the areas where they need it most. And you know what? I'm not just thinking about me, because guess what? Iron sharpens iron. There's going to be areas where they are sharp too. And
Mhm.
think about it. It's cyclical in that
Yes.
effect. So for me, leveraging the church, still walking the walk, talking the talk, do what I do every day. For me, my focus is always on fellowship and fishing. How can I draw more people to doing the right things, what's positive, and then also show them just a glimpse of Jesus at the same time? Come on, y'all.
Come up at the same what you got
At the
up
same
at
time.
at the same time.
It
That's
At
should
the
be.
same
Love it.
time.
bad.
Love it. Love it.
That's
Love
bad.
it. And that brings me to some interesting things, because I got a beef with the church, Nicole. As
Talk
a
to me.
Christian man,
Mm-hmm.
I got a beef with the church. And here's my beef. I love that we are supposed to win souls.
Mm-hmm.
And I love when a pastor gets in front of the congregation and he says, listen, there is only one way that you're going to get where we all trying to go, and it's through Christ, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
I get that part. But what I don't get, and this is my beef,
Yeah.
we, in my case, gave my life to Christ at 8 years old.
Okay.
Now, my place in heaven is secured. Can somebody in the church help me walk these next 65, 70 years
Come on.
Yeah.
and build what's in heaven on earth for me? I don't
Come
think there's
on.
enough financial education. I don't think there's
Woo.
enough practical application
Right.
of scripture being taught, because I think the focus is heavy on salvation, and it should be, right? That's why
Yeah.
Christ
Absolutely.
came to save, but he also came that we might have life and have it more
Ah,
abundantly.
come
Abundantly. Come
on.
on.
Come on.
Come
And
on.
sometimes I'm not calling no pastors out. Sometimes we get the saving part right, but after the people get saved, we
They
ain't
left.
helping them with the more abundantly part.
You,
That's my
you know
big-
what? I'm gonna say this real quick. Thank God for Jesus, because I didn't know where you was going with that. I was like, oh Lord, people, oh Lord, where we going? I was like, I start humming and rocking. Jesus, get his mouth, Jesus. I was gonna go Shirley Caesar on you, but you brought that thing on back. I was like, whew, that's an excellent point. Nicole, please weigh in on that. Please weigh in on that.
Yes. So absolutely. I could not agree with you more. The difference, so here's where some of us miss it. Number one, I think that pastors, leaders of the churches, they're put on a pedestal and they are believed to be these, a catalyst of someone that is like God, almost perfect in a sense. And so we look to them to give us something sometimes that they don't even have, because they're so busy pouring out. Who's pouring back into them? Who's filling them back up? That's very necessary, but it's often overlooked. But then the second thing is that there's a difference between religion and relationship. Religion says that this is how we get them. This is how we draw them into the church. This is how we fill all the seats. This is how we have all of these ministries and all these things going on. But if it's not intentional, if God does not stay the center, if there is not a committed practice to everybody learning and growing and being fed and walking out better than the way that we come in, we've missed it. Let's talk about it. So Cortez, if that's you within your congregation, if that's you within your family, you have to be the one to say, hold on, let's talk about this. Something is going on here. Why are we having this shift where people are wanting to turn away, where people are not feeling like they're getting what they need from the church? Be the change that you want to see. Be the thing that you know is missing in your life, because I guarantee you, when you start talking about it, somebody else is going to say, yeah, you're right, that's me. But they won't have the voice as you do to speak it out.
Oh, I can't take it.
Just busted me out on my own show and just really that was what I call a sneak attack, Nicole.
No such thing.
But you know, that was so awesome. I'm so sorry. I just have to tiptoe in this just super quick. Man, what you just said in regards to Cortez, how you led off, you said, okay, we preach salvation. That is the utmost important thing. But God does want us to have this abundant life. And tying what he said into what you said, if we don't have those Cortezes that stand up and say, okay, my salvation is there. That's a gift. Thank you, Lord. But now, as I maneuver these next 65 years, help me maneuver. Now, it's not about the money, but it is about abundance of life, and that can be financially, mentally, health-wise. How do I maneuver, you know what I'm saying, to become, I'm gonna just throw this out there. How do I maneuver to not only have the abundance for me, but have it for somebody else? How can I become a distribution center and not a warehouse? Wow, that's good. That is. I'm gonna leave that there. But that awesome. Do we need to take a break, Cortez? Just real quick. Are we good? Keep it pushing, or we need to take a break?
We got another segment. We got another question before we take the next break. So go ahead with your next question.
Okay. So you have this super awesome philosophy, dare I say, Nicole, and it is how you it's your perspective on really kind of health, wealth, spiritual. Tell us a little bit about those. There are certain, and I'm trying to get the phrasing exactly correct as I read my notes. Tell me, it is your perspective on the attributes, the things that contribute to the health and well-being of an individual. Let's talk a little bit about your perspective on that.
Absolutely. So, as a health educator, you become a subject matter expert in all of the things that directly contribute to a person's state of health. And so if I asked you, what does health look like? The average person would look at your physical appearance, your height, your weight, what's your BMI, and so on and so forth, and say, oh, well, they look pretty healthy. But that's not always the case. There are a lot of underlying factors that directly contribute to a person's state of health and their state of wellness. So this includes things in their built environment, where they live, where they work, where they go to school. This includes relationships, economic conditions, employment status. So in my time as a student, I've been a career student. My family and friends have talked about me for years. God bless y'all. But in my time as a student, I've done a lot of research, and I focused on 4 particular areas. And so, Cortez, this ties so well into what we're talking about this morning. So those 4 areas have been spiritual, physical, psychological, and emotional. Now, you all heard me say I've been working in finance for over 20 years. You don't think that God had me in that space for a reason?
Come on.
So after 2020, after the pandemic hit with a vengeance, after it kicked butt, took names, after it tore some folks down, it forced all of us to take a step back. It forced all of us to think differently. It forced all of us to do some self-examination to see what's going on. And so God showed me a 5th element that was just as important as those 4 areas I've been focusing on, if not more than. And that 5th element is finance. Come on. What does your financial wellness look like? What does your financial health looks like? Let me read an excerpt for you. In 2018, Purdue University did a study. This is quoted. High levels of financial stress manifest through physical symptoms like sleep loss, anxiety, headaches, migraines, compromised immune systems, digestive issues, high blood pressure, muscle tension, heart arrhythmia, depression, and feelings of being overwhelmed. That's just one study. Let's look at a second one. In 2020, the American Psychological Association said money is the top cause of stress in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And that 72% of Americans stressed about money at some point or another in their life. But was it acute stress? Was it just for a moment? Was it and then it went away? Or is it chronic stress?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that is spanning for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years? Is it something that is spanning from generation to generation? Are you having money problems and then your kids now, they don't know how to budget, they don't know how to, balance a checkbook?
Wow.
Think about this. So I have identified this. So when you try to figure out where are the gaps, where are the areas that we can maybe tighten some things up, tweak some things, I call that a 4-1 gap. I do gap analysis. I always look for areas where we can improve. But the spiritual, the physical, the psychological, the emotional is often visible on the outside. If somebody's stressed, somebody's having a bad day, what? You can see it on their face, right?
Mm-hmm.
But their financial health, we can paint that pig and make it look real pretty. We can dress it up. We can dress it up as much as we like and make it look so glamorous. And we know what social media, how social media, we all do these things do it for the gram, do it for the visual effect. But when you get behind closed doors and you can't sleep at night because your money is funny and your change is strained, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Who's going to start the conversations on that?
Man, you talking my language. 6
Come
years
on.
in. And I'm going to go ahead and call you Dr. Nicole, because I know where you're going. We not going to play with this thing. Dr. Nicole, 6 years in, we've been having this conversation. I go by Cortez Hustle on this show, but I am also the one and only financial health mentor. So I love this conversation, but we do have to take a quick break, guys. And when we come back on the other side of this break, we're going to have Nicole dive all the way in on how the financial actually taints and skews the spiritual, emotional, psychological, because like you said, when your change is strange, your belief system is easily off kilter a little bit.
There you go.
So we're gonna get all the way in. We ain't letting her off the hook. She got to go all the way in so we can get to where the money resides on the other side of this break. Keep it locked right here.
What's up, St. Louis? Listen, I see you've been checking out some of my videos on how to build generational wealth. Here's the real key. If you're going to build wealth in America, you must find 1 or 2 ways to get paid for 1 or 2 things that you love to do, and then build systems around those things so that you don't become a slave to your business, but you then start earning true passive income. Listen, I've got a book and online course called the Monetize My Life Influencer Bundle. The book will teach you how to identify your gifts, talents, and special abilities and turn those things into income by packaging and presenting them to the marketplace. The course will teach you how to use social media and build systems just like this video around your products and services so that you can earn that passive income. All you got to do is click the link around this video and get yourself the Monetize My Life Influencer Bundle today.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the St. Louis Hustle Podcast. I am your host, Cortez Hustle. We are listening to and learning from Nicole Tyler, my lovely co-host, Michelle A. is always ever present in the building. And man, listen, this is what fire is all about. This is why this show exists, so we can introduce you to the Dr. Nicole Tylers of the world, so that you guys can get better perspective. I've been saying it for years, Nicole. Our money issues are causing a lot of health issues. And you just stated from the studies, but all of your work in your studies, you know that all disease have a foundation in stress.
Yes.
And all stress has a foundation in financial stress, right? So not addressing our money issues, it's literally killing us, literally, right? Because if my money ain't right, I'm stressed out, I'm having heart attacks and strokes and all of that stuff. So let's talk about how one needs to change the way they see money, right? Because I believe if we can get people to change how they see money, we can then get them to change how they behave with money. I often say that you have to start looking at your money like a seed and not the harvest. And I think we got it backwards. On payday, people get paid, they see a harvest. And if we go back to scripture, what happens in the harvest festival? There's food galore, so there's waste. It's kind of like going to a smorgasbord. You take a bite off a chicken wing and you go back and get something else. That's how we treat our money on payday, right? But if you start treating it like that last $20 and you don't get paid for another 7 days, that's a whole different ball game. What happens if we start treating our whole paycheck like that last $10 that we got to make stretch for 8 days, right? Because we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
Talk about what we need to do to get people to see money differently so they can behave differently with it.
You know, wow. I love how you painted a picture about seed and harvest. And so I cannot remember which pastor it was. It may have been, I won't even quote to say who it is, but I remember hearing someone say that bitter roots produce bitter fruits.
Yeah.
If we get to the root of the issue and we pluck that thing up, guess what? It doesn't have a leg to stand on. It can't continue to plant itself down into the soil, into the foundation of our lives. But it all starts with being comfortable with getting uncomfortable. Addressing this elephant in the room. This is one of the areas that I believe particularly minorities, people of color, they avoid it like the Black Plague because it's uncomfortable. It's embarrassing to talk about. Not only that, no one has actually taken the time to sit down with them and show genuine interest about where they are, where they're trying to go. And how do we get you there? Come on, let's talk about it. Let's sit down. Let's talk about it. Let me ask you a question. If your arm were broken, would you continue to try to pick things up and carry it with that broken arm?
I can't.
No.
I can't.
The answer, let me answer that for you. The answer is no. What would you do? You would go to a specialist. You would get it checked out. In the same way that people struggle with financial issues every single day, they know that things need to be tightened up. They know that they need to make better decisions in this area, but yet they continue to try to put a Band-Aid on a broken arm. How's that working out for you? So I'm challenging the way that we have done things. I'm challenging the way that we keep trying to put this, we got this rat in a monster's costume. We blow it up and make it bigger than really what it has to be, because if somebody just had the courage to say, you know what, it's uncomfortable, I don't want to talk about it, it's embarrassing, but I'm going to do it because I know that it needs to be done. And if you know that you have an advocate that's going to sit down with you, that's going to genuinely care about where you are and genuinely care about getting you what you need to move out of that place of being stuck. Michelle talked about that a while ago. You feel stuck. You want to do something different. You want to change, but you don't know how. Many of us walk around with a broken bone. We know that it hurts, but we're too afraid or too ashamed to talk to somebody and actually examine it. Let somebody even try to touch it. But don't you know it's gonna hurt a little bit. It's gonna hurt before it heals. It's gonna hurt. You gotta let somebody touch it first.
That we ain't gonna let you just come all up on here like that.
I'm sorry.
And wreck and just knock over all the bottles and sand castles.
Listen, y'all done messed up the church's money. Don't invite me on here because I'm gonna talk about it. Yeah. I'm gonna talk about it.
It's so amazing, and I just want to share this. Everything that you're saying right now, you know, it resounds. And Cortez, I share a little bit about as we oh my God. Okay, so Nicole, and we'll spin into, you know, your entrepreneurship and you know, the agency you're working with, but everything you just said was everything I went through. Cortez, you know me and my finances, you know, bro, you know. And so when I sat down with Nicole for what she does through her agency, it involved looking at my finances, like really looking at it, how I spend. And everything you just said, that bone was broken and it hurt. I was like, oh, don't touch it. Don't. No, it's just get back. But I had to trust, because I did when we sat down to talk and we were trying to get together, I tried to blow off. I did. I was like, she was like, you want to get together? You know, again, Cortez, we've been there. I'd be like, no. And you'd be like, give me your arm, Shell. We could chicken wing you until you do this. I don't know if y'all talk to the spirit, but she chicken winged me in the spirit. And I was like, how you do that? Because I could have swore I just said, no, not right now. And before I knew it, I was like, with an altar ad. Is this an altar call? Is this a financial altar call? And something began to happen when I allowed someone to triage what was broken.
Yes.
You know, instead of just keeping it tucked back, I allowed her to begin the triage process. And it was scary. It was embarrassing. Because for what I ain't never like, I got it like that. But for what I make, I'm learning. But for what I make, I should be maybe further along. I'm a distribution center. Lord knows that. But I need to be doing that I don't distribute. I need to be doing different things with. I give away. That's easy, you know, because that's obedience. But there's something that God has called me to do with that seed, Cortez. Seed. That I need that help in maneuvering that, you know, and again, all things work together, as you said. I just had to expound on that as I want to kind of shift us towards what you're doing as a financial services planner and consultant with PHP Agency. If you can, you know, take us real quick though, super quick, the wealth gap, right? The racial wealth gap. Let's talk a little bit about that as we go into what you're doing with PHP.
Absolutely. So in everything that I'm saying, please don't take my word for it. Go Google it. Look it up. Google University can tell you everything that you need to know. I'm telling you, between Google and YouTube, you can find the answer.
Yeah, I got about 16 degrees from YouTube University.
He got his doctorate too.
Yes, let them use you, Cortez. Go ahead. So within the United States, we know that this is one of the wealthiest countries. Yes.
Yeah.
Within our population, only average 10% of Americans make $100,000 or more. Only roughly 10%. It might be about 12 now here in 2021, but 10%. So that means 90% of Americans, no matter what their background is, no matter whatever their story is, make less than $100,000 a year. So let's focus on the 10% for a second. The 10%, they are taught different than the 90. They invest their money different. They leave a family legacy. They transfer generational wealth to their families. Good habits. They teach them about how to create a foundation. They teach them the way that they are to go when they get ready to start a family of their own. When they retire well. The 10%, you do not see them. And no disrespect to what I'm about to say. So please, I hope no one is offended. You don't see anyone from the 10% category being a door greeter at Walmart or saying at 65, at 68, at 70, oh, I got to go back to work because, you know, I'm on a fixed income and it's not enough for me to do not only what I need to do, but even some of the things that I want to do. So how do we shift the mindset? How do we shift the trajectory and move 90%, the folks that are in that 90% group, how do we shift them over? The mind. It has to be a mind shift. It has to be a mind shift. There has to be a different story, a different picture that is painted that helps them to understand everything that the 10% has, or the folks that are in that 10% category have done. That's not an exception. You can do the same thing. You can. So where the 10% leave a history of generational wealth and leave a legacy, the 90% often has a pattern of generational poverty, bad habits, and these things continue to be cyclical. They go from generation to generation to generation. Let me throw a couple things out there, a couple names that you might be familiar with. Walmart, Pampered Chef, JCPenney, Disney, all of McDonald's. All of these are familiar brands, franchises, yes?
Yeah.
Do you know that all of these companies were started with life insurance money? Somebody taught the folks in that 10% category how to invest their money, where to invest their money, where they could put it to protect it from losses and from taxes. Put it in a place where it can grow and grow and grow exponentially. Somebody set a foundation for a child that was just born, is 2 months, 3 months old, and left money, start depositing money in an account for them that was protected against taxes, that was protected against losses, and it continued to grow. All of those brands that I just mentioned to you, all of them began with somebody making an investment in an insurance product, left it there, allowed that money to grow exponentially, and they were able to start some of the biggest franchises, not just in the States, but in the world, because somebody taught them something a little bit different than what most of us have learned when we were coming up. They told us, and I'll end it here. When I was coming up, what did they tell you should be your approach? Get an education, get a good job, get you a good job that has good what? Benefits. Okay. Then they teach you how to invest your money, put it in a 401k, put it in something that, but now there's no pensions anymore. So now we are funding our own retirements, right? Okay. Now you got your 401k. Now they say, hey, if you want to show people that you made it, go buy a house, buy a car, show them that you are doing well. So you got a house, you got a car. Now, maybe you have a family. Now they say, you know what? You might want to put something in savings. How? Where am I getting it from? Where's it coming from?
Right.
Tell me.
I'd have had these kids. No.
Now you want to tell me to save. And then, okay, so what about saving for a rainy day? You want me to save? Will I have anything for my kids? If I left tomorrow, would I leave anything for my kids? The answer is no. Where's it coming from? You don't know how. But if you look at a diagram, everything that I just listed to you, education, benefit, get your education, get a good job, invest in a 401k, then buy a home, then try to save if you can, how, we don't know, but make it happen somehow, and then set a foundation. If you look at the 10%, it's shifted. The way that they are taught is the exact opposite. And that's what PHP strives to show individuals, how the components are the same, but the order in which they flow are different. And we sit down with families to paint this picture for them. Don't just take my word for it. Look at it. Think about how you were raised. Think about the conversations that took place with you when you were coming up, or those that didn't take place with you. So now in your 30s, in your 40s, you're just now starting to hear about things that somebody should have been talking to you 20 plus years ago.
Yeah, I love it. And as a financial educator, that is, you are spot on that it's the literacy piece of the conversations that been happening. See, we get to age 30 and 40 and somebody is talking to us about investing and it's like, oh man, that's scary, that's risky. But if your parents had been talking and showing you examples of investment from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, you know that there's risk, but then you also know how to weigh those risks and you know how to evaluate rewards and that kind of stuff. So we're literally being introduced to investments at 40 years old, at 30 years old, and that becomes part of the problem. So my coaches and mentors always tell me that, hey, first thing you got to get is to understand the terminology, and then you got to get perspective, right? Money has its own language, and that's my design, guys. It's designed that in a way that this stuff is somewhat confusing. Well, anything is confusing. I do a lot of online marketing. I start talking about sales funnels and capture pages and all that kind of stuff. Look at Michelle, look on her face. What? Right? Because that's a language she doesn't understand. And we do the same thing when we hear people talking about money. It's a language we don't understand. So we literally fade to black. We check out. Stop those people and say, wait a minute, what did you mean by that? What does that mean? And then, like Nicole says, go do your research, right? Go do your research, because there's no excuse in 2021 for you still to be talking about, I don't know what investments is, right? We walk around this planet with $1,000 computer in our hand that literally has access to about 90% of all the information in the whole world. You can get access to about 90% of it right from your phone. And that includes the financial information. So as we are approaching the top of the hour, Dr. Nicole, let's talk a little bit about now that we understand that there's a mindset shift that needs to happen. And you alluded to this, but I want you to expound a little bit as well. We got the broken arm, but instead of going to the professional to get the broken arm fixed, we go to the next door neighbor.
I was gonna say, don't you do it. Don't you do it.
It's like when my car is down, I take it to a professional. When Michelle wants to get her hair cut, she goes to see a professional, right? If I got something going on with my eyes, I'm going to see a professional. When it comes to my money, though, I'm DIY all day.
I'm gonna holler at Pookie. Hey, come on over here and help me plan this financial. First, you gotta get you some rims. Then get you some Timbs. You go see a man named Jim. Okay. Sorry. My bad. Sorry.
So talk about the importance of coaching and mentorship, because that's what I get from you. You're not just helping people with an insurance product.
Absolutely.
It's the coaching, it's the mentorship, it's the ongoing relationship and the pitching. And because we know that when you give somebody this information and they get it, then you also know that their kids are going to get it. And then their kids are going to get it. So the importance of mentorship and really the continual education process, because it doesn't stop, right? When you get into this rabbit hole right here, it goes on forever. So talk about the importance of mentorship and then tell everybody how they can connect with you and really, get access to your services.
Absolutely. So it is in the book of Hosea 4:6, that says, our people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Cortez, you said, if something is wrong with your car, you're going to go to a mechanic. If Michelle or I want to go and get our hair fixed, we're going to go to a professional hairstylist. Even a kitchen dudes won't do in this season anymore. Okay? But what we don't realize is that the next door neighbor that we want to go to, or even, amongst our friends, our peers, they are operating from a negative reserve. We can't even blame our parents for not giving us the information or what have you, because nobody sat down and had the conversation with them. So again, let's talk about it. Who's going to be bold enough to open up the dialogue and say, hey, my arm hurts. I need to get this thing looked at. I've been putting this Band-Aid on it, but I'm not healing. The bone can't grow back together again.
Mm.
And so I'm fairly new to the PHP agency. However, when I got introduced to it just near the end of 2020, it brought everything that I've done as a health educator full circle. It's the fifth dimension, because I have now identified that there's a huge gap in the way that we approach finance when you talk about the 90% and the 10% populations. There's a huge gap. Think about this. When you go into a major financial institution, the only folks that are allowed to have a personal banker or a financier, you got to be walking in with at least six figures. So because I'm not bringing a check for $100,000, I only have $100. My $100 doesn't count. It's not worth anything.
You get a teller who's making minimum wage.
Yes.
Right. What a stank attitude.
But do I not deserve the same level of attention, the same guidance, the same coaching and mentoring to show me how I can maximize this $100 that I have in my pocket? And so the aim of PHP is to educate individuals about, first of all, creating a space for individuals that have been counted out, and that no one would even take the time to sit down with them and figure out where they are. What are your goals? How do we get you to that end goal? And so we use what we call a dime theory. We look at debt, we look at income, we look at your mortgage and your rent, and we look at any type of educational expenses that you want to put aside for yourself, for your children, for your grandchildren. With all of those factors, we identify your goals, and then we prioritize those. We see, based on what your responses are, let's find out what's most important to you. Is it retirement wealth? Is it having money on hand for, an unexpected event? Do you want to leave a legacy? You want to be able to leave some cash on hand for your family? How do we do that? You want to buy a house in the next couple years. Let's talk about it. It all starts with the conversation. And so PHP as an agency wants to be the champion amongst the financial industry, within the financial industry. And they are one of the top agencies in the States, and now breaking the borders and going outside of the US to sit down and spark the conversation on, one, let's educate. Two, let's share this knowledge. This is not forbidden fruit. This is not something that everybody should not know about. It may have been hidden from you, but now you've been exposed to it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you know it, you can't unknow it. It's just like the word. Once it gets down on the inside of you, it permeates, it percolates. You find yourself pregnant. So if you've been walking around with a seed inside of you for God knows how long, when are you going to birth it? Right. You can't be 265 months pregnant. Do something. Push that thing.
I can't
push that.
Okay.
So how can someone who wants to connect with Dr. Nicole, I just like saying Dr. Nicole.
Doctor.
It's coming. So you let us know, we can have you back when it's official. But how can they connect with you and get that sit down so they can understand how to map out their plans and their goals? Because you said, our people are perishing for lack of knowledge, but there's another reason that they're perishing too. And you can help them with this. That's because of a lack of vision.
Yes.
How can you sit down with them and help them establish a vision that says my children's children will not have to worry about anything but walking in their purpose, because everything else is taken care of. Give them your digits, your details. How can they connect with you, Dr. Nicole?
Absolutely. So on Facebook, I am at Dreamcatcher Alliance. On Instagram, Dreamcatcher_Alliance. And phone number 314-629-1924. Not only am I...
Let me throw it in the comments.
314-629-1924. Not only am I interested in being a fisher of men, I also am looking for individuals that want to fish just like me. that need a mentor, that want to be coached. Let me tell you something. The finance industry is fail proof when everything else, but think about this. People spent more money in 2020 during a pandemic than ever before. We spent $220 billion on dining out alone in 2020. Google it. You think I'm kidding? Google it. So let's shift this. I'm looking for individuals that want to do just what I am doing, that will partner with me, that will join me in these ranks and be a crusader for changing the narrative and the way that we see money and how we approach our day-to-day lives, responsibilities, and our future. And it all starts with a conversation.
And PHP, for those of you who do not know, stands for People Helping People.
Come on.
Big fan of Patrick David. I know all about the organization. So you are in great hands in the organization. And you guys are literally doing God's work.
Absolutely.
There's over 2,000 scriptures in the Bible about financial stewardship and money versus a whole lot less on faith and salvation. So you think God might have wanted you to get your money right? I think so. Michelle, last words.
Man, I'm just telling you, this show has wiped me out. And quotes of the day: don't be 265 months pregnant. I'm about to give birth in a moment, Lord. I'm on day number 266. It's my time. The seed in me got to come out. So that's it. I just man, respect the silence when God is quiet, respect that, but then also don't be pregnant and not give birth. Hey.
Amen.
Love it. Dr. Nicole, last word.
You know, there is scripture that says there is a time to plant, there is a time to water, there is a time to harvest. No matter where you are in your life, this is to all of our listeners. This is to even us as we fellowship through this interview, this podcast. No matter where you are, don't ever forget that your seed matters. Your seed counts. And I encourage anybody to just be bold enough to reach out and have a conversation. Those areas that are not well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how we get you from that place of hurting to healing. Because through that, not only will you be blessed, but when other people see how you shine and how your glow enhances, you'll bless them as well.
Yes.
Love it. Listen, guys, every church on the planet, on one day of the week, usually Wednesday, they have Bible study. What is Bible study? That's Bible practice day. On Tuesdays or Thursdays, they have choir rehearsal. What is that? That is choir practice day. My question to you, when's your money practice day?
Come on.
What?
When's your money practice day?
What you say?
At least once a week, you should be practicing money. So we appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in. You've been listening to and learning from Michelle A. Cortez Hustle and Dr. Nicole Tyler right here on the St. Louis Hustle podcast. Until we talk to you next time, I want you to get your money up because you absolutely can do it. But more importantly, you deserve to do it, each and every single one of you. So hustle up.